Our conversations continue here at Davos 2023. Joining me now is Nikesh Arora of Palo Alto Networks. Nikesh, thanks very much for joining us here. Let me start by asking you about the overall mood. It doesn't seem to be as gloom and doom as people were expecting.
Well, Shireen, lovely to see you. Thank you for having me. Yes, I've been here for the last 2 days, and it's interesting. People, I think they're probably gotten used to the fact that the Federal Reserve in the U.S. kept raising rates, and the message has finally gotten through to companies and CEOs that the Fed is not going to relent until it gets the outcome it wants. And I think the Fed will get the outcome it wants. But I think the signs in the underlying macroeconomic environment are that things are slowing down, but slowly. And that's a good outcome because you don't want some imminent drop. You don't want something to go fall down. So I think, yes, you're right. It is not all gloom and doom. There is a hint of optimism. We just have to be careful not to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, that is true. But let's talk about, what people are talking about here in terms of conversation. And of course, it keeps coming up every year, cybersecurity risks. And I think while people are more mindful of that today, has it sort of fallen off the radar a little bit, given all the other challenges that people are dealing with? Is it less of a challenge that's getting attention?
Well, it's kind of like this morning we released a report with the Cybersecurity Forum of WEF, and it says that more executives expect that there's going to be a catastrophic disaster in the next 2 years than ever before. So there is anxiety and anticipation of something that could happen. I think it's driven by the fact that we've seen more and more cyber activity underlying all the technological transformations that we're going. So yes, people are still concerned. It may not be top of mind for certain people when oil prices and gas prices are the most important thing, or there's a war going on. Yes, those people should worry about those things, but it's there. It's lurking right underneath.
Investments being made, or have those sort of started to moderate or taper?
Yeah, again, another survey came out 2 days ago where Citibank talked to 100 plus CISOs and CIOs, and they said, look, our budgets are not going up, but they're not going down. Now that's a big thing because in this market with all the macroeconomic activity and stuff sort of going down steadily, whether it's consumer or enterprise, you see the CISOs are not relenting on the need to spend in cybersecurity. And honestly, that's because we built up this cyber debt over the last few decades where we have underinvested in security because, honestly, it was never an issue. Like, we weren't talking about this 5 years ago because we were not so connected. Now we're all connected. Nation states have figured out that this is great offensive capability to have so that you can disrupt operations of companies or into IP theft. So I think it's become more front and center, and that's causing people to invest more, but you can't fix it in a day or a month or a year.
When you talk about a catastrophe in the next 2 years, explain to me what that could mean potentially.
I mean, think about it. In the past year, there's been a few thousand cyber attacks which have resulted in ransomware being paid. Now, in this case, there was an economic motivation. Somebody said, pay me money and I'll revert you back to your status. If the motivation was not economic, if the motivation was disruption, the colonial pipeline could have been disrupted. We'd be without oil for months and the oil prices would have to go up. Or you bring down an electric grid, you never turn it back on. You bring down an agricultural product company and you suddenly see the impact on food prices. So those things, in some way, shape or form end up being catastrophes, and if you can concatenate a few, you can cause serious disruption. So I think that's what, and that depends, and usually you attribute that to nation-state behavior because hopefully there aren't private individuals.
Has the nation-state activity gone up significantly?
The nation-state activity is always there. Most cyber actors, the head of Interpol this morning talked about the cyber attacking as a service. So there's groups out there which work for the government when they need to, they work for themselves when they need to, and
you learn something new every day. Cyber attacking as a service.
Why not? It's a SaaS service.
It's a SaaS service of a completely different kind.
Indeed.
Let me talk to you about the mood in the valley at this point in time.
Yes.
Inflation, interest rates, liquidity drying up, no access to easy money. How bad are things? How bad is the mood at this point in time?
Oh, I think you're
over-exaggerating?
You're just exaggerating, not over-exaggerating. But look, there's still a lot of money out there because I don't think people who are investors were unaware of what was going on in the market, but they saw an arbitrage, they took the arbitrage. Money was easier to get and cheaper. There's still a lot of money on the sidelines. There's still a lot of money waiting for good ideas. And look, the last 6 weeks, the new conversation is ChatGPT. Suddenly AI is the forefront, and you can see there's a flurry of activity where investors are looking for AI companies now to invest in because they think that's the next big thing. So I think there's always been a next big thing in technology. I don't think that's going to go away. I think these are better times for investors because when money was cheap, valuations were high. As an investor, your return is lower.
Yeah.
So now valuations, at least for early stage or second or third round startups, are gone down and become normal. So there is rationality in the market, which generally means in the long term a better outcome, better return for investors. Now, I think there may be a few unhappy people who wish they had sold at a certain point in time. But other than that, I think most seasoned investors are sitting there saying, okay, you're back to the next cycle, gear up, we're going to go invest in the next big thing.
Speaking of the next big thing, and I'm glad that you brought up ChatGPT, what do you think it means for Google?
Well, I don't know what it means for Google. I think what it does mean is that it is what ChatGPT has shown you. I've said it, I say it's legitimized AI. Many years ago when we got the iPhone, I remember getting the first iPhone which had no keyboards. Yeah. And you say, oh my God, you want me to have a phone without a keyboard? How am I going to do this? And it became a touch screen. You got comfortable with touch screen. I think 90% of the world now has a touch screen phone as opposed to a keypad-based phone. And we're all very comfortable with mobile data. In fact, I call less and I use more data on my phone where the tables are turned. And that was 30 years ago. We didn't have any of this stuff. Now just imagine ChatGPT is going to be 100 times more powerful in the next iteration, which is months away. Imagine it could be thousands of times more powerful. So I think ChatGPT has legitimized AI. It's going to create a huge gold rush for people trying to go and look at data, put it together, analyze it, apply AI towards it. It's amazing for us in security because security, I've always maintained, is not a human problem. It's an AI problem. And I think putting the spotlight in AI, showing the value of it, showing what it can do, is both instructive and fun as well as useful.
Mm-hmm. But, in terms of the regulatory landscape, and I think everyone's grappling with, should there be regulation, what kind of regulation, how much, light touch or not? What's your thought as we've now seen this emerge?
The regulation in which context?
In the context of AI.
Oh, in the context of AI, look, there's a lot, you can regulate everything. You can regulate water, air, whatever you want to do, regulate. The question of AI is, you want to stop the abuse of AI or the misuse of AI. Now, there are
Which is a legitimate concern.
Well, there's a legitimate concern, misuse of everything. I can use that big stand with the camera and hit somebody in the head. That's a bad idea. You don't regulate it. My point is, yes, can AI be used detrimentally? Possibly. So the question is, who has it? Who's it in the hands of? Is it in the hands of good actors or bad actors? So look, there's a lot of things in the world where in the hand of bad actors end up with significantly bad outcomes. I don't think AI needs to be regulated any differently than we regulate anything else. I think the bigger question around AI becomes collection of data. And where it comes in is, look, if I said every medical record, every blood test you've ever done in your life and every scan that you've done is available digitally, and is available digitally for your community, your locality, your country, oh my God, imagine we would not need pathologists or radiologists. Is that an abuse of AI? Not at all. It's good for us. You probably live longer. You probably anticipate diseases. So, hell, I want that to happen. Now, if I took pictures of everybody here and was able to scan them on the internet and figure out who they are, what they're doing, that's an invasion of privacy. Well, there's laws around invasion of privacy already. So, yes, collection of data becomes more important, more relevant as to who and how it's being collected, who has their hands on it, which I don't think is a new problem. We've been talking about that for the last 5 years. You and I have talked about this.
Yes,
so
we have.
Collection of data becomes a problem. Then, what do you do with the data? And of course, the same things that AI can do. And I was questioning something. Somebody wrote a plot for a movie using ChatGPT, right? Now imagine you took that plot for a movie, you were able to digitize it and have human-like actors be created, and somebody could make it happen. We wouldn't be shooting movies or scripts anymore.
Yeah.
Now,
or doing interviews.
That's the good part of it. Now the flip side is they could make up a fictitious interview between you and me.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing. I don't want that to happen. So now, can you regulate that? Possibly. Could you figure out a way of making sure that doesn't happen? Possibly. But I don't know that it requires regulation as much as it requires this stuff to be in the hands of the right people.
Now, let me end by asking you. You were in India a few months ago, and of course, you've still got your connections with the startup ecosystem and the startup world. What do you make of what's going on there?
Look, the last years, as you know, I was investing in India. I have always been a bull on India, and I think the current geopolitical circumstances are putting more of a spotlight in India. I think India is getting its due mind share around the world to start with. I think coupled with that, with our 300 million people who are in the right segment of the population, couple the fact that we're investing in technology for Indians now, as opposed to exporting it for the most part. I think these are all good signs. I think I'm very hopeful. Again, I don't think the lessons are any different for people in India that they are for in the Valley. You've got to put your head down, build a good business. You do that, good things will happen.
Yes, and I hope more good things will happen. Nikesh, always a pleasure. Many thanks for joining us here in Davos. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Shuri.
Well, we are going to be back with more conversations here at Davos 2023. We're back in a minute.
Listen, thanks to